Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. We talk about the problems people face in their day-to-day lives. Let's start with the video. My husband and I both work in a publishing house, and we met while we were assigned on the same team for a project. The project was later scrapped, but we enjoyed each other's company while we were working together. He asked me out as soon as our team was disbanded, and we hit it off on our first date. I dated him for about 2 years before he eventually proposed to me. I did feel like it was a little too soon, but he kept saying he's sure I'm the one for him and he wants to spend the rest of our lives together. Thinking about the things he said now makes me gag, and I want to hit myself for being so naive. I fell for his words, and he walked out on me when it wasn't all rainbows and sunshine. We were married for a year, and I had no plans of having a baby anytime soon. I'm 28 for crying out loud, and I'm too career-driven to even think about being responsible for another human life. I was nowhere ready to be a mom, but life doesn't always go as you plan. I found out I was pregnant. It was accidental and a shock that changed my life entirely. One day I was living my 20s like there's no tomorrow, and then suddenly I had to make the decision whether or not I wanted to keep the baby. No matter how much I hated the fact of being a mother or how not ready I was, I couldn't just decide on a whim to abort the kid, and it wasn't completely my choice either. Of course, I had the final say, but my husband got to weigh in on the matter. It took us about a week to process the information that I'm actually pregnant, and then the fight started. I wasn't ready and didn't want to be a mom. My primary reason was my career. I took up the position of head manager for our editing team, and my husband started working under me. That in itself was a source of some tension between us. Then we disagreed on whether or not to keep the child. My husband said it's the right time and he wants to be a father. He kept saying how much this means to me and I should think about our family too. I, on the other hand, kept thinking that if I had the baby, I'll have to take a break from work. And the first year as a new head is a crucial one. Moreover, how could I bring a kid into this world when there was a chance I might not be able to be the best mom? Doesn't that innocent unborn child deserve a good family? So we kept circling around the same points and kept fighting. Eventually, he said that he'll be a stay-at-home dad, and I wouldn't have to give up on anything. He said he'll take the leave so I could return within a month. He kept saying how this family is above everything else for him, and eventually we decided to have the baby. I noticed things started to change in the 7th month of my pregnancy. My husband was beginning to alienate from me and would work overtime. I questioned him a few times about his behavior, but he kept saying it's all in my head and it's the hormones making me delusional. I was a fool to believe maybe it really was just my messed up pregnancy hormones and I'm overthinking things. It was true because I had nothing to do at home all day. I kept watching Netflix and ordering food. The only time I was active was during the yoga sessions, so I ignored all his behavior and tried to control my mood swings too. I was also feeling guilty because my husband had to deal with my mood swings, which were quite a wild ride, to be honest. Well, I gave birth 3 weeks ago, and I realized my relationship has gone past the point of saving when I was alone at the hospital. If it wasn't for my mom and my BFF, I wouldn't have made it through the delivery. We kept calling my husband, but he didn't pick up his calls, and his phone eventually went off. The whole time, post-delivery in the hospital, I kept thinking about what could be the reason that he couldn't even manage to tell me. I went through anger, pity, and depression all at once. At one point, I was ready to kill my husband on sight, and that actually created some problems with my health. Because the doctor has clearly instructed me to not stress yet. That was the only thing I was able to do. When I came home after a week at the hospital, my husband came back. Both my parents and my friend were with me when he told me that he has been thinking about our life and he has decided he wants out of this. He said now that he's a father, he realized he can't take responsibility for a child. He can't give up on his job and his life. He said the last few months were miserable and that made him see he doesn't want to live this kind of life. That was enough to send me over the edge because I charged at him, and if not for my dad holding me back, I would have definitely broken his jaw at the very least. But I'm glad my dad held me back because I avoided a lawsuit there. I was pissed because he was the one who said he'd shoulder everything so I don't have to completely give up on my life. He said we'll be a family and I wouldn't ever be alone and he couldn't even make it through the pregnancy. But I wasn't going to just sit back and let him have his way, so I did the only thing that was under my power. I was the head and he worked under me. I had full power to choose my team, so I fired him. The publishing house was a small sublet of a Penguin house, so the entire office was managed by the senior manager, who's the only one above me. It was a good thing he let me handle the hiring and laying off process. Anyway, that was 3 weeks ago. I wrote here today because my husband came back crying to me. Word travels fast in our industry, as not a lot of media houses are active nowadays. I guess he was having trouble getting a job, and after I filed for divorce, he knew childcare alone would make him go broke. So he crawled back to me apologizing for his behavior. He said he was confused and didn't know any better, but I didn't believe a single word out of his mouth. I told him there's no way I'm taking back the divorce case or letting him come back into my life. I didn't think about my daughter, who is going to have to grow up without a father, and kicked him out of my house. Am I an a-hole for doing that when he did come back, or did I go too far in punishing him? In my opinion, he deserves everything that's coming his way, but I need a third person's opinion who isn't involved personally in our lives. So, a lot of you are saying I'm a doormat and an a-hole. I know what my faults are without you pointing them out. I did listen to my husband, and that's where it all went wrong. It's true that I was neither ready nor wanted a baby yet in my life, but that doesn't mean I never wanted to start a family. My husband did convince me to keep the baby and start a family, but now that he's gone, I'm in no way going to abandon my daughter. I love her, and she's my responsibility. Yes, I regret that I have to make a lot of sacrifices for her, but just because I'm regretting some things, it does not mean I'm going to let her starve to death. In the end, the choice was mine, and I'm going to see it through. As for my husband, he can rot for all I care. He did try to contact me a few more times, but I've blocked his number. The only time I'll talk to him will be in front of a judge and my lawyer. He made his choice, and no amount of crying, pleading, and apologizing is going to change it. I was not sure if I'll be able to raise this child alone, but thankfully I have people in my life who are willing to step up and help me out. It was getting harder for me to look after Emily, that's what I named her, while recovering from pregnancy myself. I ended up breaking down in front of my mom, and she decided then and there that she's moving in. I was so grateful to her because I'm the kind of person who'd never ask for help and would only accept it when it's offered. My mom knows that about me and didn't even leave me a choice in the matter. Since she started staying around 24/7, I was able to catch a break. It's been 2 months since I've joined back at the office, but for the first 6 weeks, I was mostly working from home. Now that my mom is around, I'll be able to go back in person and have a better handle on things. I was afraid that I'll have to quit altogether for a while, but I'm glad things are working themselves out. My divorce is still hanging in the air, though. After my husband realized that I'm not going to take him back, he started fighting for the custody of Emily. I guess he was thinking he'll be able to negotiate with me like that, but I'm not backing down. Both my parents and my friend were there when he declared he doesn't want to be a father. and they testified for it. I just wish this cursed case wouldn't drag out anymore and I can get him out of my life permanently. I finally got the divorce and custody of my kid. I refused to back down, and I think my husband was losing a lot of money over this, so he finally agreed to let me have full parental rights. He gave up on any kind of visitation rights and said he doesn't want anything to do with Emily. I could see the look of disgust on the judge's face as she declared the conflict closed. Now, the only thing that connects me to my ex-husband is the monthly childcare he'll be transferring to my bank account, and I couldn't be happier about it. Finally, he's out of our lives, and I can start healing and moving on. NTA, that man deserves nothing less than the absolute worst. You're not the a-hole, and consider yourself lucky for dodging a bullet. NTA, I know from experience how manipulative some spouses can be, but you should be happy that you found his reality sooner and didn't waste 12 to 15 years of your life on him. My boyfriend and I have been together for 4 years. We lived separately. He was 30 and lived with his parents. I was 31 and lived with my 6-year-old. We had our baby in September 14th. The baby shower was sometime in August. His aunt decided to throw a baby shower for him. She said it would be a male's version of a baby shower. Men only, but that was a lie. She invited his mother, her daughter, his cousin, and herself, of course. She said I wasn't allowed to come. If it were men only, baby shower, then why were those women there? Also, that would only make sense if it were a bachelor party. I was carrying the baby and I wasn't allowed to be there? All that my boyfriend said to me was that it was out of his control. I feel like he should have stood up for me and said that it didn't sound fair, that it should be a baby shower for the both of us. Every baby shower I had been to always had both parents. Also, I didn't feel like he deserved a party looking like he's the father of the year because he didn't even show up to many of my baby appointments except for 2 of them. One was when we found out the gender. It was on my birthday, but he had to leave shortly after the appointment because he was spending the day with his mom. On my birthday. Also, they lived together. Another appointment he came to was a 3-hour glucose test, but he spent half that appointment on the phone with his mother. Also, he wasn't there much for me during the pregnancy when I was throwing up or needed help lifting something. I had to do it mostly by myself. Again, we are together. Maybe this would make sense if we weren't together. He tells me that the baby shower wasn't out of spite, that it was supposed to be guys only, with the exception of his mother, aunt, and cousin. Yet, I'm the mother. I had no idea how many views and comments I'd get. I appreciate the support from a lot of people on here. Answers to some of your questions. No, this isn't the first time I've been treated badly by them. This time just happened to really bother me because it did make me feel like they were doing this to take my baby away from me. Also, anything involving my kids would make me want to be defensive. I also questioned why my 6-year-old boy wasn't invited, since he is in fact a boy. I did say it made me feel like I was a surrogate, yet surrogates still get treated better than that. I do feel like the baby shower was for him and his mom. I do feel like I'm the baby mama that they all hate. I do agree that he didn't stand up for me when they asked him if they could plan that event. He could have said that it was not right to exclude me, but he didn't. He went along with it. They all claim it wasn't to exclude me, but who excludes the mother from an event for her baby? I made sure not to have them at the hospital because I didn't want a group of people who didn't like me to be around when I'm trying to recover from my C-section and have the privilege to meet the baby after being excluded from an event for my own son. Why WBTA if you even think this? He is your boyfriend. No, he is not. He may be with you at times for whatever reasons, but it is not because he is your BF. His family is his heart, not you. You need to start working with legal authorities, attorneys, to get some child support paperwork in order and make sure you get legal custody. I can see his mommy pushing him for custody so she can be mommy to this baby, not you. Your 6-year-old is watching this unfold, learning from you what a true relationship is. Do better. Set better examples for your child. Does he live with you now or still with mommy? You wrote again, we are together. No, your words say differently. Your words say you are not. Did your family, friends throw you a baby shower? Did he attend? Did his family attend? Where are all the items from his baby shower? At his mommy's house? Baby shower was 1,000% out of spite. They are making sure you know your place in that family. Fill out the court papers and move it along. This is not a person you want to raise a baby with. Don't let him and his mother beat you to court. NTA. So I have 4 children, 2 from my previous marriage and 2 from my current marriage. My first wife passed away when our children were both under 3 years old. She and I made a promise before we had our children to each deposit $350 into their account every month for their education. After she passed, I felt it was my job to fulfill her part of our promise. I couldn't afford to deposit $700 each, so I lowered the amount to $450 each. I also do the same for my 2 other children, though the amount is $200. My current wife had no problem with the amount I gave my children and ours. However, when I increased the amount to $550 for my children and $250 for ours, she did have a problem with it. She finds it unfair. I gave my 2 older children $100 and our 2 other ones just $50. I explained to her why it's $100 more for my 2 oldest. Their mother is no longer alive to fulfill her promise, so I'm doing it for her. It's $50 from me and $50 from her. She still thinks it's unfair and finds it annoying that my dead ex is dictating our finances. She said I should treat all my children equally and give them an equal increase. I explained again that I'm their only parent and they only have me to save up for their future. Our children still have 2 parents to save up for them. I told her she could add the other $50. I also told her that I didn't appreciate her calling her my dead ex. She's not an ex. She's still my wife. I told her that I find it weird that she is so intimidated by someone that is not alive. She screamed at me after I told her that, and she stormed off and hasn't spoken to me since Friday. I'm having some doubts about my decision now. It might sound fair in my head, but my younger 2 might feel they're being treated unfairly. I might have also gone too far by saying she felt intimidated by my first wife. I was just a little frustrated, so AITA for giving my oldest 2 more money? NTA, your wife calling your deceased wife your dead ex is a massive red flag. She probably let it slip out of anger, but nonetheless, she clearly has some built-up feelings on the matter that she's held in for a while. I don't know how other financial matters are arranged in your family, but I don't think you're wrong for wanting to pay what your previous wife would have contributed. I think it's very sweet, and I find it really unfortunate that your current wife does not see it that way. In my opinion, YTA, the agreement for her to contribute to her children each month was appropriate when she was alive. Now that she's not, you took it upon yourself to continue doing the monthly payments. You are continuing the tradition. She is not here to contribute herself. You now have a new wife who apparently is not doing monthly payments toward the kids. Any money you're earning today is with your new wife. Your kids absolutely will not understand why half of them get substantially more money. They will think you only care about your first two kids, and your wife is right to be upset. Do it equally or not at all. It would be one thing if your wife left money behind. That would absolutely be appropriate to give to her kids only. But to go out of your way to ensure your kids get more of your money is an move, YTA. Your new wife is contributing $150 to her kids only. That means you should only consider $150 more for your kids after your contribution among all children is exactly the same amount. The base pay that comes from you needs to be equal. Then wife payments considered after. YTA because your contribution is purposely higher for your two first children, and you are using your deceased wife as an excuse. YTA. YTA. The promise to the first wife was not contingent on it needing to be 700. It was the principle behind it that it should be for education, but you have 4 kids now and they should be treated equally. It's unfair to give the 2 youngest less, and you know this. You don't need me to tell you that. The whole 2 parents of the other 2 things, I don't buy either. Don't you have joint finances? I can see why your wife is pissed.